going to find your image. This one here's the full size one that you loaded up. It's on 1024 actually. It's okay. Drop that into Photoshop. This brings up Adobe Camera Raw. This is a setting that I've got. Not always. It won't always bring up JPEGs in Adobe Camera Raw. It'll bring up the RAW files, obviously. If I click on the white balance tool, I can select any area in here, and it will make that the white. Take the white balance from there. So I can click anywhere on these. Slight changes, but nothing really major there. So let's go into Photoshop. So open the image. We want this area to be totally white. Here we've got blue areas and various other colours. So the first thing I want to do is separate out the background from the white shirts. Okay. So I'll go to my Magic Wand tool and I can start selecting areas around here. Now you notice the problem that it selected some of the shirt and all the other things because they're too close in colour and tone to the white background. So holding down the Alt key turns the thing into a minus and takes away some of these areas. Okay. So we can deduct these shirts from the background. Be aware that there are some pieces down here, look, that are still selected. Let's get rid of those. And also the hair, holding down Alt again, we can bring that hair back. But that's brought back some of this background. Plus, we'll add in that background again. And the other side, add in that. You see we've got the cuffs and a bit of the shirt of the lad here. Hold down Alt, and we can add those back in, or actually taking them away from the selection, and make sure that we've got all this cuff there, and make sure that his jeans are in there as well. Okay, so that's good enough for this. Okay, now you can refine that a little bit more to make sure that you've got all the little bits and pieces in there, but generally that's quite good. So if I press Control and J, okay, and then go back to my layers palette, you can see I've got a layer here which has just got the background on it. Okay, now I'm going to adjust this background. I'm not going to adjust the original image. I first want to look at the threshold on this background. So go to my adjustments and select threshold. Take this right up to the top. Everything goes black. Basically, these are the only few areas that are totally white. Back to my layers palette, back to the layer that I'm adjusting, and then add a curves layer. Now let's just jump back to the layers palette. I only want this curves to adjust this layer here. I don't want it to adjust the background. So if I hover between the two layers there, hold down Alt, I get this other cursor with a little arrow and the two circles. Click, and this curves layer will only affect this background. Now enter the curves layer by double clicking that circle, white dropper tool, and start selecting areas in the background. These areas should be white, but they're not. So if I just keep clicking on them, gradually they're becoming more and more white. Okay, and then if I go back to the layers palette, I can click on the eye next to the threshold and everything disappears. Okay, the threshold disappears and the background is pure white. We might actually have to adjust some of the contrast in the shirts and in the skin and so on. To do that, I go back to the background layer, add a curves layer, select this finger pointy tool, and then click somewhere and drag down to increase the contrast. Okay, and you can do that on various parts of this image. The blacks perhaps need to be made more black. That's maybe too much. Okay, but this is not affecting the white background because the white background is up here on its own. this is the layer, the curves layer that we were adjusting. Okay, so that's a rough video of how to do that white background. I've used it on many backgrounds. Don't always have to cut out the background. It just depends on what clothing that children are wearing. If they've got a lot of white in there, then we're going to have problems. And that's it, basically. So if I save that, I'll save it in here. This is the full size. I'll upload this and put this in the forum in a minute. And just save it as a JPEG. Okay. That's it.